And it's working. Hey. Okay. Let me see. I was just about to press the start button, start broadcasting, and I realized I need to pee. So I had to run for pee, but we're good. We're on time. Let's get this started. Okay, so we're gonna continue on from where we left off. Yeah, not yesterday, 2 days ago. And do a quick little video. I'm not going to spend too long tonight because I'm quite tired. I made the mistake of spending too long in the workshop over the weekend. And then when I went home, I watched The Raid on Saturday night and The Raid 2 on Sunday night, last night. And I had freaking nightmares after. It was crazy. I have a very, very irrational fear of being stabbed, which is kind of strange considering I stab myself on a daily basis at this job. But yeah, I just they stab people in a whole new way in that movie, so I didn't sleep very well. So I'm going to do a quick little video, and we're going to look at a couple of things. I'm going to stop talking nonsense and get to it. So the last video we were looking at putting on the clay dam from the matrix. I've spent a little bit of time smoothing it out. It's not perfect, but it's as good as I want it to be just now. So what we're going to have to do now is cover this in fiberglass or a hard substance. I'm going to use fiberglass or a couple of alternatives that you can use, but it's going to be fiberglass. But we're going to need the fiberglass to come apart. So we're going to have to put some dividing lines in it so that it can be taken apart and then joined back together. So that's what we're going to work on today. I will show you. This is the Thomas version. So you will see here a nice flange that goes all the way around the front and all the way around the sides. And it is held together with these bolts and wing nuts. And you'll also see here there's a pour spout for the silicon to actually go in. And there's one in the back because it is a two-part. So we're going to do something quite similar for Guy Manuel here. It's not going to be a two-part mold. I'll talk about that later. So we're only going to need one pour spout. So basically it's going to work the exact same. We're going to do one up the front here, and then we're going to do one down the sides along the ears. So maybe two parts are going to come away from here, and then a part is going to come away from the back. Easy peasy. And I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. So typically what you can do is you can build up a clay wall here and here, and you can sort of work one section at a time, but that takes a little bit of time, and then putting clay on top of clay is a bit of a pain in the ass. So what people tend to prefer to do is to use aluminium shims. So little thin strips of aluminium that can be pressed into the clay. And of course, the aluminium, the fiberglass doesn't actually stick to the aluminium, so it can pull away. And because it's so thin, it means that there's a very, very, very slight gap, like a couple of a millimeter, not even a millimeter. And that means that the two jackets are going to join together very well. And there's not going to be any sort of seepage. Silicon is not going to leak out. So I've come up with a way. Aluminium shims are crazy expensive, and I don't like wasting money. I've seen people use styrene. Styrene can be a bit chunky, and because it comes in like 0.5 mil or a mil thicknesses, that's going to be 0.5 mil you're going to have between the two flanges that are going to meet. So the chance of leakage there is great. So this is a trick that I've used, and basically what I'm using is aluminium tape. Okay, so this is used for plumbing and for heating and heating ducts and stuff. I actually saw this being used by Adam Savage on, I don't know, it was a tested video, but he used this to coat a wooden sword, and because of aluminium, you can actually sand it and you can scruff it up. He used wire wool to put a bit of a texture on it, and it's really, really great stuff. So I bought some to play around with it, and then I discovered that it is just aluminium, really, really thin aluminium. So what I've done is I've come up with a way of using that as shims. A roll of this costs £15 here in the UK. I bought a roll over a year ago, and I have now molded 4, 5, 6, 7 helmets. I've made enough shims for 7 helmets. So this will be my 8th helmet that I've made shims from a roll. So £15 for 8 helmets is not too bad. The only trouble is you have to actually make it. Because it's very, very thin, you use multiple layers to create something that's a little bit more rigidity in it. You don't want to be too rigid, but I come up in a nice way. So what I'm going to do is show you how we do that. And I have my tea. Right, okay, so let me adjust this camera. I have to do it a little bit towards that. Good. Yeah, that looks good. So earlier on today, I spent, I think, about an hour and a half, and I made a whole heap of these. So this should be more than enough to mold, to divide the helmet. But I'm going to show you how I made them. So what I've done, showing you already, the roll comes like that. This is 100 mil wide, which is great. You can get it here, but you can't really get it any thicker. So what I've done is I've cut out a couple of different size sheets. I've cut out one size that is 150 mil long, and I've cut another one that is 200 mil long. And the way I'm going to do this is basically fold on top of each other. I'm going to add a little bit of styrene to add support. So you'll notice here in these ones, there's a little bit of styrene sticking at the bottom, and that's actually going to be the part that we're going to stick into the clay. Okay, so not a lot of that is actually going to be protruding from the clay, and it just helps to give a little bit more pressure. What I found, without having this bit of styrene, when you push it into the clay, it can crumple a little bit, so the styrene gives it a little bit of extra strength. So I'm going to make 3 here now, just so you can see me. That's the last of the material. I've actually created some templates just out of a piece of styrene, and this is the same size that I need to cut. It just makes it a lot quicker, so you can cut them out rather than using a ruler and a square edge. You can just cut out these templates, and you can just place it down on the material and cut one side, and you've got your pieces really, really quick. About speeding up the process, really. So I'm going to take the first piece, which is the piece that is 100 mil long, and I'm just going to fold it in half. It doesn't have to be uber precise. Working with this stuff, it takes a little bit of getting used to. It has a tendency to curl up. It has a tendency to stick to itself, but it is quite forgiving. So I'm going to pull away the first half down to the fold line, and then I'm going to insert a piece of styrene right on the crease, just like that. And then I'm going to fold over the other half onto the styrene, remove the backing film, and then I've got a little scraper of plastic. I think I got this with a carbon filler, but it's just nice and soft, and then I'm going to use that just to press all the bubbles out, getting it nice and smooth. So that's just 2 layers, so it's definitely not strong enough, so we're going to double up again. So I'm going to get the piece that's 200 mil long, and again I'm going to fold it up like so. Exact same process. Pull it away, and then I'm going to insert the bit with the styrene in it on the crease. Press it down, and you're going to see that there's a little bit of an overhang here. That's on purpose. I then fold that back over here, smooth that off, and use your scraper to smooth that off, and then the same inside. like so. And there is your homemade shim. And you can just pop it with a scalpel if you've got any air bubbles. So that is a homemade shim. How long did that take? Less than a minute. And you'll see here that you've got the styrene at the bottom. That's the part that's going to be stuck into the clay. And then up here, you're going to have 4 layers of aluminium. So it is quite rigid. But yeah, it can still bend and stuff, and it's easy to cut with a scissors. So I'll make a couple more of those, and that will be all done. So here we go. Let's see how quickly I can do this one. I'll probably muck it up. So styrene goes in, like so. Fold it over. A bigger piece. And fold it. Into the crease like so. Again, it doesn't really matter if you have air bubbles or crinkles in it. The fibreglass will kind of pick it up. It's not going to matter what you want to try and what you're trying to do, create these flat surfaces. But little imperfections like that are not going to be the end of the world. And like it's quite forgiving, so even if you've got them, you can stab them out. Just give it a rerun. That is another one done. Pop it over there. Right. Do I have enough to do one more? But I'm not going to do it. So I made plenty of these today. I think I spent a total about an hour and a half today, so I've made plenty of them. But I've also made some of these. Okay, so the reflection is going to be basically what these have got is a sort of triangular groove shape cut into it. And I like to place about 3 or 4 of these along the dividing wall. And that is to give it an extra element of registration. So the 2 halves will kind of lock into each other. There'll be a male on one side and a female on this side. And then you can put a bolt through that. And it just means there's going to be less chance of movement. Possibly overkill, but I like to have them anyway. So I'll show you how I made them. What I've done is, rather than measuring each one out, I've created a template. So I've made this one here. I basically just got 2 cut lines that I can cut onto a pre-made shim. So I'll show you how I do that. Place it down. Just follow the lines. Again, it does not have to be exact or precise. And then you're going to put 2 little nicks there and there. It doesn't always cut through. Again, this is just a time-saving device. You could measure each one with a marker and a ruler, but ain't nobody got time for that. So give that a little fold down there. Then give that one, pop those corners out. Give that a little fold. And then you've sort of dropped it down a little bit. You can see that. It's going to create a bit of a void. And then you're going to fold this flange up the way. Same on the other side, getting it roughly square. And then you're just going to have that sitting down like that. Okay. And then you're just going to use the tape. You see that? Yeah, there we go. So you can see that sort of shape you're making. We're going to use the tape, aluminium tape. I'm just going to cut off some strips. Just using a square here to cut off some strips, about 20 mil wide. Three is going to be enough. And then we're just going to use tape to join it back up. So I've had plenty of practice making these. I did get my intern to try and make some last year. J-props. Struggle with it for a while. It's quite a difficult material to work with, but you get the hang of it. A little bit of practice. It's not very expensive, so you can muck around with it. So then you just stick it together. You can fold the tape back. On the other side, and then you can just smooth it out. So that's one side done. We'll do the other side. And that should be enough. So it's not a major gap, but it does help the jacket register together. And I like to do one across the back here, just so we half strip. Just so there's no chance of the gel coat or the fiberglass, the polyurethane or polyester resin seeping through, because the polyester resin will not stick to this aluminium, but if there's a gap in the aluminium and it seeps through, it will stick to itself. And remember, you're going to be putting polyester on both sides, so you want to make sure that all the gaps, if you've cut into the shim, you want to make sure all the gaps are sealed. So that's generally enough. One down there, folds over onto the back, and then a little one down here at the bottom where you have them covered. So that's it. So for this, I have created 4 of these registration pieces. I thought I had 4. I had 4. Oh, there we go. Yep. So I've got 4 of these registration pieces. And I've got a whole buttload of the normal ones, and now we're going to move on to installing them onto the clay. So let me adjust the camera a little bit here. There we go. Haha. I wonder, can I get a bit closer? Of course I can. I really need to think of new ways of setting up the camera in the workshop. There we go. That's good, isn't it? Right. Let's see if we can get some light on it. Plenty of light. So, got my knife. This is what I'm going to use, and then I'm also going to need the aluminium tape. I'm also going a scalpel, a ruler, and a cutting board, because I'm going to have to cut the aluminium as I go I'm also going to need scissors. And that is going to, that's not a very good scissors, is it? It's called carbon clay. This is my dud scissors. Hopefully it'll work. Because you're going to have to cut and shape the aluminium shims to suit. Now, some people I have seen will just sort of run the aluminium on top of each other like that. So you've got overlap. And what that does is that causes a bit of a ridge. It's not the end of the world, but I much prefer to have it joined together so that the gap between the two jackets is as thin as possible. So what we tend to do is, if it's going to go at an angle around the corner, is we cut down there and join the two of them with tape. Again, a little bit more time, but I much prefer the results. So we're also going to have to add a pour spout into this because we need to get the silicon into the jacket, and you don't really want to forget about that because silicon is quite viscous, so it needs to go through quite a big opening. So cutting that out of the fiberglass jacket later will not be advisable. So I just use a cardboard tube. I've wrapped this one in aluminium, and that is just basically going to stick into the clay along the dividing line. Naturally, there's no point in having it stick in here because it's going to have problems getting it out later, aren't you? So we will get going with that. So we're going to have one going up here, and we're going to have one going down there, and that should be enough to release. There's no major overhangs with this helmet. There's no ways it's going to get snagged. The back end is relatively straightforward, so the jacket should just pop off. What you can do is kind of shape these registration bands here so that there's no sort of overhang, no angles that I can get caught on. Just little things you learn over time. But yeah, it should just pop off the back, which is what you want, maybe with a bit of negotiation. This silicon jacket or silicon mold is going to be a one part. There is not going to be any seams in it, unlike Thomas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a special silicon cutting blade, which actually cuts a locking groove into the silicon. I'll show that in a later video. But we're just going to cut a seam line right the way up the center, which is going to run to about approximately here. Because the section here is a visor, and that's going to be removed from the casting, we don't have to worry about it getting any marks or scrapes when we're cutting away with it. And then when you're doing the casting, there'll only be a seam line on this tiny little chin section, which means you're not going to have to sand out very much when it comes to prepping the casting. And we're going to put the pour spout here, and that will also act as a stopper, because once you cut the silicon, it's going to we're going to have to like open the silicon like this, open it out to get the casting out. So this chunk of silicon here, that's going to be where the pour spout is, will act as a stopper to stop that cut from running the whole way up the mold and splitting the mold in half. So it kind of dual purpose. That will become more apparent later on in later videos. So I'm not going to do the entire thing tonight. I may just do a couple of sections just to show you the idea. Plus, I'm not going to have time to finish it tonight. I want to go home and cook some dinner. So I'll just do a little bit to show you the main tricks. And then I also want to cover it in this plastic bag again to keep the clay dry. So there's no point in me in the jacket putting the shims all the way around because I risk ruining it. And I'll probably tackle that tomorrow and make a start on the fiberglassing as well. And hopefully I can do a video for that. So what I'm going to do is start off with the top, where I'm going to have my intersections. I'm going to grab my knife. Grab my knife and use the knife basically just to cut a groove down the center. Should really wet the blade first. There we go. And I'm going to do the same along here. So we're going to try and keep it nice and straight, so using the knife is a good tool. Naturally, don't cut too far in. You don't want to cut the master below, but this is just to create a guide panel, a guide for the shims to go into. And it can be adjusted if you muck it up. It's clay, so you can just squish it back together. Here we go. So you can see I've got a nice line going down there, nice and straight. I will continue that line down here. Got another line there, and then one down the front. I don't like where I put that first line, so I'm going to close it up. Grab my sponge, sort it out. No, mess it up again. There we go. That's better. Now I've completely balls that up. Let's start again. I'm just being a bit too precious with it, I think. Get it done this time. Here we go. That's more like it. I'm not going to go all the way down. There we go. Right. I'm going to use the blade to open that up a little bit. So grab your shims, and you're pretty much just going to negotiate down into the clay. Easy peasy. And that's the first one done. Move it back a little bit. Excellent. And now the second one, I want to put it down like that. So I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm just going to cut this little piece off like this. Remember, you can take these out and put them back again. You don't have to be precious with it. Pop it back in. I'm going to place another one in like so. There we go. Excellent, nice and simple. And then what we're going to do is just basically continue that down the sides and around the front. We're going to have to join them together. So what you do is, I don't have to pre-cut. You can use strips of the aluminium tape. And what you're going to do is just give it a little fold in half, and then you're going to press that into those corners of that just to join it all together. Like I said earlier on, you do not want any of the resin to seep through, because if the resin makes contact with the resin on the other side of the binding wall, it is going to fuse together. So you want to try and keep it sealed, keep them separate. So put that down like that. And you go. And that's one side sealed up. Do the same on the other side. And in it goes like so. And you just use your fingers to smoothen that off. There you go. And you can cut off the excess on the top using your scissors. That's it. So that is the divide between the back, the left side, and the right side. And that's the start of it. And these two are just going to continue on down here and continue on down here. So with your pour spout, you want to make sure that your pour spout is at the highest point of the mold. This is going to be sitting flat, which makes it a lot easier. So it's obvious that the highest point is going to be around here somewhere. So it's going to position that in. You want to make sure that your pour spout is quite long. The reason for this is silicon can take its sweet ass time working its way down into the cavity. So you want to make sure that you can have a reservoir of silicon up here. You also got to allow for air bubbles. And the air bubbles are going to want to escape. And some air bubbles might escape quite quickly, but some might do it hella slowly. It might take a couple of hours to travel up. So what you want to make sure is that you allow for enough silicon to be reserved up here, so if there is any seepage, if there is any bubbles, large air bubbles that are making their way out, that you've got silicon up here, that you don't end up with a weak spot at the top. So you always pour too much silicon. And again, that will be covered later on in other videos. So get the spout, and what we're going to do is join this. So this is where you start shaping up, and what we're going to try and do is put in the gap. So you can start cutting these shims to size. Like I said, I don't like to have them overlap. I like to have them butted up against each other so that it's just one continuous thickness the whole way around. So I'm going to grab my Sharpie, if I can find my Sharpie. There it is. And what you do, position one in. Oh, you can't understand me. Position one in like so. Can you see that? And just use your Sharpie to mark it. Pop it back out again. Scissors. Where did I leave the scissors? There they are. Cut it and then pop it back in. And there you go. Same again, exact same principle. You're just going to use strips of aluminium foil. To join it back up again. Fold that over. So generally what I do is I will tape one side to save time so I can get everything done nice and quickly, and then what I'll do is I'll cut up a load of strips and then I'll go back to the other sides just to speed up the process. So I'm not going to do that. I am going to join this to this pipe, just so it does not get knocked off. Give it a little bit of strength and support. Who's chatting to me? Nope. So again, just fold the little strip into a right angle, and then you're just going to pop that in like so, and that joins them all together. And then once you've done your wall, you can just press that, compact that clay in around the base, and then later what I'll do is I'll get my sponge and I'll go over it and I'll smooth it off again, because it does get knocks and bumps into the clay. So your final smoothing of the clay is done just before you go to seal it, after you've installed the dividing wall. So I'm not going to waste too much time on it now. So that's the general idea. I might do a couple more pieces just so you have another chance of watching it, but yeah, we're keeping this a short video tonight. I want to get home. It's not a great time for doing videos. I think everybody's on their, well, everybody in the UK is on their commute home. I think it's too early for you guys in the States. So I'll just do one or two more. So the way I tend to work is I tend to go put in pieces, full length pieces, and then fill in the gaps between it. So you can see there's a gap there. I like to try and put pieces if there's a flat surface. So down here on the earpiece, it's nice and flat, so I'd like to have a flat one there. I'm also going to insert these, what are they called? Registration key shims. And generally where I like to do them is on the flat surface of the ears. I should have done one there, but I completely forgot, but well, I'm not going to change it now. So I'll do two down here on the other side, and then I will do one along here, just where it's nice and flat. But for the time being, I might just place one so I know where it's going to be. Yep. Here we go. Just going to get my knife. Dampen up, and I'm going to open this gap. So you can just stick the knife in and then give it a little wiggle. Just open it up so that it's a little bit easier to insert the shim. So I'll put that one there. Like that. Again, going to mark it with my Sharpie so I know where to cut. And I'm also going to do outline roughly there. Again, you'll figure out your own method for doing this. I learned this method from the Stan Winston School. I'm going to watch a little video on that. And I think from there, I kind of figured out a way that I liked doing it. It suited the way I work. I don't know if I'm copying them exactly. I don't think I've changed it considerably. So here we go. That pops in there like that. And then you can see I've kind of cut this into shape. So I'm going to put another piece in there. Just going to remove this little hunk here. And tape just joins it up. There we go. So you can see we're making a good start now. So that, like I said, I like to position them. Position the main ones, a full length one, and then fill in the gaps. That's the way that I tend to work. I'm going to do another one on the far side just to even it up, and that will do me. Sorry, you can't see what I'm doing here. So. Position them so I know where I'm working. Another trick that you can do if you want, when you're cutting one size, you can cut two the same size and then put it on the opposite side, which I sometimes do. I didn't think you were there, did I? So again, open it up with the knife. Put that in. Sharpie. Perfect line. I'm going to cut this one. Approximately the same. Here we go. So I recently found out that you can get, I think it's brass shim from a store here in the UK called Taranti. Just do a lot of sculpting and mold making supplies. The guys over at Tigerstone mentioned that over the last couple of weeks. So I've not actually managed to get my hands on that. I've not looked into it yet. It certainly would be worth looking into. I think it's quite affordable in comparison to aluminium stuff. Anyway, it's quite affordable. And again, I believe it doesn't react with the, cut the right way. Doesn't react with the polyester. So I might look into that. But to be perfectly honest, spending an hour making the shims and it's only costing pennies, I'm not really going to argue with that for the time being. But then something to consider for the future. Time can be quite precious. But I just put on a podcast today and spent an hour making shims. I was quite happy, quite content. So there we go. I'm pretty happy with that. So what was that? 20 minutes, half an hour, less. And I've made a good start. Realistically, and we'll get the whole thing. But like I said, I'm tired today, so I'm not going to finish it. I'm just going to do a big long day tomorrow. So I think I might do another video tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube, there should be a whole series of videos. There's certainly one video available now, and there'll be more videos available in the future where I'll be showing the whole process from start to finish of applying, making the clay wall. Oh God, a matrix mold. So yeah, I'm going to just pop these out because I'm going to seal it up. There we go. So that's the start of it. So I've installed the pour spout. I've started to make the 3 sides, the dam to create 3 sides for the fiberglass jacket, which should happen tomorrow. Thank you very much. No one tuned in tonight, but like I said, it's lucky time. But it's here. I will be doing the rest of it at a later date. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. I hope you found it informative. Please feel free to comment, ask me questions. You can get me on my Facebook page, which is /Sorenzo. You can get me on Twitter, again, at Sorenzo Props. Sorry, Facebook is /Sorenzo Props. Everything is Sorenzo Props. Just Google Sorenzo Props and you'll find at least 4 or 5 ways of making contact with me. But yeah, comments, suggestions, feedback, constructive criticism is always welcome. So feel free to get in touch and let me know what you think. And I'm going home to make some dinner, and I'll be back tomorrow to make another video, and hopefully I'll have this all finished. And we can start getting the fiberglass, which is fun, a lot of fun. So yeah, thanks very much. Catch you later. And we press the stop button.